Marry Me, Annie here. I am starting to make videos in response to questions that my viewers have sent me. Nothing will change about the vlogs that I do, but I don't want to stop making new videos on topics. This topic came from a young viewer. I think a rather young viewer. That viewer's question actually has come to me from several others. Many others over the time I've been on YouTube. I cannot recall, I couldn't find if I've done a video on this already. I think I may have, perhaps when I was on the Pagan perspective, but I couldn't find it, so I wanted to address it again, because I actually think it's very important. Our young friend, similar to other young people who have reached out to me, lives at home as a youngster and isn't quite sure how to pursue their pagan studies. I don't know if this person specifically said it, but some of you have been honest in saying that the adults in your life might not approve of your exploring an alternate spirituality. So your question is, what do I do? I can't bring books into the house. I can't do ritual. I can't practice being a pagan. Here's my thoughts on it. Now, I'm going to begin as an older person, because I can be the grandmother of most of the people who've asked this question. Respect the adults in your life. The tradition that I come from in Wicca has a first rule about respecting the elders in our lives, whether they're elders in our circle or the elders we meet in life. There'll come a time when you're living independently, and you won't need to make decisions based on adult influences in your life. But in the time that you were young and at home, you are well put under the influence of the adults in your life who care for you. When I think back to when I was your age, I knew early on I was not Christian. I really could not have shared that with my family. It would have put undue pressure upon me then to conform to what they expected of me, because the pressure would have increased. But you know, my experience of it was, I didn't have to discuss. I was going through my mind the things I was thinking of, the things I was questioning. I didn't have to discuss them with all of the adults in my life. There were some adults I could talk to, but not in my immediate family. I had other relatives and older friends who supported me. But even they didn't understand any forays I was beginning to make in pagan studies. I think their concern was, and your parents also often will have this concern, that you're losing touch with God. And no parent wants their child to live free of the feeling of being connected to something as beautiful as whatever a concept of God might be. There's also community expectations, aren't there? Going to church groups, some of you in church schools. I say, live that life. If you are not in a situation where you can discuss your questions and your explorations with your parents, you are still not limited on your personal explorations. Take the time. Study all world religions, and I don't mean a passing read something here or there on the internet. I really mean settle down. Study in depth as many as you can. The power of discovering what they all have in common is the power of creating a personal path for yourself. You have noticed, I am sure, that it's not a matter of, I don't think I believe the same thing as my parents, so I am now something else. It doesn't happen that way, does it? You have the luxury to explore and take time at this point in your life. Study indigenous peoples throughout the world and throughout time. Learn how they connected to the land. What did they see of the land that was their concept of God, of divinity, of connection to something greater? How did they celebrate that? How did they honor the seasons? So much information out there for you, available on studying of all kinds of religions, studying of all kinds of indigenous cultures, now and throughout history. and mythology. Study mythology. Really go in depth. Whenever a god or a goddess seems interesting to you, explore it. Pick a pantheon and learn about all the gods within a pantheon and how they relate to each other. Again, you will start discovering the commonality amongst gods and goddesses throughout all time and all place. And in that exploration, the one of religion in a formal sense, of indigenous people and their relation to the land, and the study of mythology, comparing every culture's take on it, one to the other. The more you do that, the more you will discover what is true for you. And don't think that you can't practice your paganism. If your god or your goddess, or your god and goddess, become gods of the land, take a walk, get outside, get off your computer, experience the weather. All the personalities of the weather, all the personalities of the season. Decide how each of them feels godlike to you. Read books by naturalists. Pick up a book that is an in-depth study of for instance, the path of the monarch butterfly or the snow goose. Learn about the power of the natural world. Read poetry about the natural world. You shouldn't have too much extra time on your hands as a young person who wants to explore alternate ways to relate to God. Make good use of your time. Also, I counsel this to you, coming from the perspective of an older person. Don't just assume you're not what your family is. You may find beauty and meaning within the religion of your family that permits you still to understand your connection to the natural world, to history, the devotion within your own community that loves and supports you. Sometimes on this journey of exploring paganism, we find out that perhaps we are just a mystic within the religion of our families. It might not be about stepping away from that. It might mean that you have discovered an additional and powerful way to be that satisfies your soul. If you're feeling limited by the religion of your family, top of your list from this old lady's perspective is, have you really explored it further? It is your heritage. It's the bond of your family. It connects you to people in your community. Think about that. I will tell you the truth. As many a young person that I have counseled who has, when they have been on their own, left behind the religion of their family and moved in a new direction, as many of them that did that instead found a deep and beautiful, so deep connection to the religion of their family, but from a fresh perspective. There's my advice to you. Fill your hours with study and reflection and learning, deciding what inspires you. Think of all of that in relation to your life. How can you creatively express some of the new things that you are feeling and knowing, even within an environment that sometimes for young people feels like the older people in your family are putting pressure on you. You've got a glorious time in your life. Take the time you need, but let yourself continue to be surrounded by your loved ones, and I encourage you to continue to hold respect for the elders in your family and for all of the members of your family who have come before. Let your grandparents and your parents, your aunts and uncles inspire you, but know that within that you are still discovering and taking the time to discover who you are. I wish you mirth and reverence. Mary Part.